What is up, you beautiful people out there on the internet? It is I, Michael Shockman, here with our next episode in Season 3 of D&D 5e Simplified, where we cover martial weapons in all their forms and all their statistics. Really quick before we dive into things, we've got a lot to cover, so please buckle up. Really quick before we do, please be sure to please be sure to smash the like button and hit the subscribe button. Also, be sure to ring that bell icon so you never miss an episode. Also, be sure to comment down below with what kind of weapon heavy or martial weapon user are you? Are you a fan of battle axes? Are you a greatsword user? Are you a great axe wielding barbarian? Or are you a fan of the trident and wanting to emulate Poseidon / Neptune? Let me know down below. We're gonna dive right into this, guys, because there's a lot to cover, like a lot. Starting off at the top, we have battle axes, which are 10 gold pieces apiece. Do 1d8 slashing, weigh 4 pounds, and have versatile as their as their property, going up to a 1d10 if you use them in two hands. We have flails, which are again 10 gold pieces and do 1d8 bludgeoning damage and only weigh 2 pounds. Absolutely no properties added. We have the glaive, which are kind of like the naginatas and pole sword type things, which are 20 gold pieces apiece. Deal 1d10 slashing damage, weigh 6 pounds, and have the properties of heavy, reach, and two-handed. Next we have the great axe, which are 30 gold pieces apiece. Deal 1d12 slashing damage. This, as far as I know, is the most heavy-hitting single, one of two heavy-hitting single weapons in the entire game for melee weapons, which is kind of cool. It does 1d12 slashing damage, weighs 7 pounds, and has the properties of heavy and two-handed. Next we have the great sword, which costs 50 gold pieces, kind of as a nod to how hard it is to make by everyday craftsmen. And rather than doing 1d12, it does 2d6, thus adding an additional base amount of damage, 1 extra point on that. Does 2d6 slashing, weighs 6 pounds, and has, again, heavy and two-handed as its properties. Next we have the halberd, which costs 20 gold pieces, does 1d10 slashing damage, weighs 6 pounds, and has the properties of heavy, reach, and two-handed. Next we have the lance, which is a special weapon. It costs 10 gold pieces, does 1d12 piercing damage, weighs 6 pounds, and has the things of special and reach. I will say that there are two specific martial weapons that are technically considered special weapons, those being lances and nets. We'll get a little bit more into that later. Suffice to say that you can't use a lance unless you're on horseback or mounted, so just keep that in mind. Next we have the longsword, which, just as a quick aside, longswords in D&D are less like longswords in real life. Longswords in real life were like what Aragorn used, both as Andúril and Narsil, and also what Gandalf used as Glamdring. They are technically the in-between between a two-handed sword and an arming sword. In this, in 5th edition specifically, longswords are versatile, so you can use them in one or two hands, and they are properly done that way, but most people just use them with one hand. As such, they cost 15 gold pieces, deal 1d8 slashing when used in one hand, weigh 3 pounds, and are versatile, allowing them to be used with a 1d10 if used in two hands. Next we have a maul, which costs 10 gold pieces, does 2d6 bludgeoning damage. I had forgotten about that one. Weighs 10 pounds and has the properties of heavy and two-handed. Next we have the Morning Star, essentially the big daddy of basically the cavalry mace, the big daddy of the spiked ball family, which costs 15 gold pieces. It does 1d8 piercing damage and weighs 4 pounds. Absolutely no properties added. And next we have the pike, the big boy of the spear group, which costs 5 gold pieces, does 1d10 piercing damage, weighs 18 pounds, and has the properties of heavy, reach, and two-handed. Next we have the rapier, the kind of swashbuckling sword type of thing, which costs 25 gold pieces, does 1d8 piercing damage, weighs 2 pounds, and has the property of finesse. Next, below that, we have scimitars, which also cost 25 gold pieces. Does 1d6 slashing damage. Weighs 3 pounds and has the properties of finesse and light. Below that, we have the short sword, which costs 10 gold pieces. Also does 1d6 piercing damage. And weighs 2 pounds and has the properties of finesse and light. This kind of leads me to wonder if the short sword that they're going off of as an example for this is kind of like the gladius, which was more of a piercing weapon. Food for thought. Below that, we have the trident, which costs 5 gold pieces, does 1d6 piercing damage, weighs 4 pounds, and has the properties of thrown at a 20-60 range, and versatile if used in melee, allowing it to have a 1d8 instead of a 1d6 when used in both hands. Next, we have the war pick, which is kind of like it's a war pick. It's a spiky thing that you use on a haft. It costs 5 gold pieces, does 1d8 piercing damage, and weighs 2 pounds. Absolutely no properties added. Next, we have the Warhammer, which costs 15 gold pieces, does 1d8 bludgeoning damage, weighs 2 pounds, and has again, the thing of versatile, doing a 1d10 when used in 2 hands. Last but not least, we have the Whip, which costs 2 gold pieces, does 1d4 slashing damage, and weighs 3 pounds, and has the properties of finesse and reach. Next, we're going to move on to the martial ranged weapons, starting off with the blowgun, which costs 10 gold pieces, does 1 piercing damage, weighs 1 pound, and has ammunition, the ammunition property as well as the loading property, having a 25-100 range. The thing about blowguns is they're not really meant to do a lot of damage in themselves. They're meant to be more carriers for either darts by themselves or with poison, interestingly enough. Next, we have the hand crossbow, which costs 75 gold pieces, does 1d6 piercing damage, weighs 3 pounds, and has, again, the ammunition thing of 30-foot optimal, 120-foot max, has light and loading as well as properties. Next, we have heavy crossbows, which cost 50 gold pieces, interestingly enough, less than the hand crossbow. Does 1d10 piercing damage, weighs 18 pounds, has ammunition of range rating of 100 and 400, and also has the properties of heavy, loading, and two-handed. Next, we have the longbow for 50 gold pieces, 1d8 piercing damage, weighs 2 pounds, and has the thing of 150 to 600 for ammunition, as well as heavy and two-handed. And last but not least, we have the net, which only costs 1 gold piece, weighs 3 pounds, and has the things of special and thrown for 5 and 15 range. Nets are mainly... we'll go more into that later. That's going to about cover it for today's thing. This has been a lot. This has been a long episode. This has been a lot to cover. My throat is dry. My mouth is dry. My throat hurts. I'm going to stop recording this now. Thank you guys so much for joining me. What I have to say about heavy weapon or about martial weapons is that martial weapons, in my opinion, are the creme de la creme. I kind of wish that they had added in later edition or later supplements to the thing the ability to take finesse weapons like they did in 3rd edition and I think earlier in 2nd edition. I wish that they had been allowed that to happen. Unfortunately, they didn't go with that, so it is what it is. But I love martial weapons. Great swords are some of my favorites, and yeah, you can't go wrong with them. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Michael Shockman. I've been your host and commentator. Do me a really quick favor before we sign off. Check out the links down in the description. You know what they do. You know where they go. You know what to do. As a quick little aside as we sign off, I do want to say I am trying to do a push to get some more Patreon subscribers on my Patreon. If you could go and check it out and even subscribe at the lowest level, I would really appreciate it. I am a self-run channel, and right now, as for everybody, times are hard. Any little bit that you can spare would be wonderful and would be appreciated. And even if you can't subscribe on there, or even if you can't pledge on Patreon. Just share my channel out to everyone you know. I'm really trying to grow my channel as a way to kind of help bridge the gap for funds, as well as just wanting to get my message out to everybody. So any little bit of help that you can give would be appreciated. Thank you so much. I'm Michael Shockman. I've been your host and commentator. And remember, as always, guys, keep it real, keep it safe, keep it healthy, and we'll see you guys again soon in the Institute. Bye-bye, guys.